much more than what we brought in. So what that means is we had more revenue coming into our country than we had going out buying stuff. Does that make sense? Somebody used to say when your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep becomes your downfall. And that's what's happened to us. There's an article in the paper either this morning or yesterday morning about, they said our trade imbalance decreased by $26 billion. It decreased by that much in 1 month. That just simply means we had less money to buy stuff. So we didn't buy as much stuff as we bought the month before, but we still buying more stuff from other countries than what we're selling them. So what ends up happening at some point in time, your trade deficit becomes so large, your currency becomes almost worthless around the rest of the world. And so labor is always important. And the ability to make stuff and manufacture stuff and produce things that other people will buy is the key to long-term economic stability. I'm not an economist, but I have stayed in the Holiday Inn on a few nights. Here we, in essence, almost invented the automobile industry. And now without the bailout of the United States taxpayers, there would not be an automotive industry in this country. Because all of a sudden, we cannot make automobiles to compete with automobiles manufactured in other parts of the world. This is serious business. And that's why I'm trying to challenge these young people to academic excellence, because we need godly minds to understand the economy, to understand how things work, to try to get in there and do the right thing for the benefit of masses and majority of people. And not be so self-serving and so preoccupied with their own comfort and convenience, but to understand that to whom much is given, much is also required. Well, just a little side note. The burden of maintaining Jerusalem was borne on the back of the poor. And they were subjected to a double system of taxation. First they were taxed by the Roman government. Matthew was a tax collector. And there was so much money that had to be exacted from the people by the Roman government. And then the Roman government allowed the Jewish religious leaders to tax the people. So they were taxed for the upkeep of the temple. They were taxed for the upkeep of the Leviticus. There was 1,800 Levites in Israel, 1,800. And the people were taxed to finance and support all of these individuals. And then they had to be taxed as a part of the religious system of worship. So it's estimated they paid between 40 to 70% of their income in taxation. This is the situation that occurred when Jesus appeared on the scene. So when you heard Jesus speaking with such scathing terms against the religious leaders, it had nothing to do with their knowledge and understanding of the Bible. They knew the Bible clearly and succinctly. It had everything to do with their misuse of the Scripture and their misuse of their power at the expense of the most vulnerable people in the society. Jesus was a radical social revolutionary. And you see it culminate here in Luke chapter 19. He had been teaching this stuff all along. He'd called them hypocrites all along. It wasn't like that this should have been some surprise to them, that they were on a collision course and he was going to expose their economic exploitation of the people, their greed and their hypocrisy, and the fact that they used the religious system of Judaism is nothing more than a system of racketeering. They were a bunch of crooks. They were thugs in robes and in white collars. And that's how Jesus saw them. So the Jewish political, social, religious life was oriented toward the temple. There was a network of synagogues. The synagogues were born during the Babylonian captivity when they weren't in Israel, where they couldn't go to the temple. So they came with the concept of the synagogue, which was a small meeting place. So when they came out of Babylon captivity, they kept the synagogue system in a remote place in the remote villages. And every synagogue had to have at least 10 men to be initiated. And all the synagogues pointed towards Jerusalem, and they pointed towards the temple to remind the people that they had no life apart from the temple. And every 3 years, every male 12 years of age and above had to make, every year, every male had to make a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. 3 major feasts to show himself and to bring his offering. So that brings, now you understand the context. You got a system of religion that is organized oppression and that is organized greed for the benefit of a few above the masses. And it's connected to the Roman government because Rome doesn't care a flying flip about their religion. All Rome wants is the taxes collected, and they want the people to remain in subjugation and to recognize the authority of the Rome. So Rome allows this religious scam to continue. As I was studying for this message, I've been studying for several weeks, I then was looking at the comparison between the Jewish temple system and the organized Catholic Church of years ago. And you find a striking similarity. A striking similarity. The reason Martin Luther, the great reformer, one of the reasons that he protested against the Catholic Church and nailed the 95 Theses to the door of the Wittenberg Church, it had to do with the corruption, how they were selling people's right to sin. It didn't care what sin you committed. They would then give you what they called a condolence, and it allowed you to keep on sinning as long as you paid the money. And the money came into the religious system. That was the sham that Martin Luther basically just could not tolerate. So Luther basically said, this is wrong. God is nowhere in this type of a system. The people can buy their salvation. Not only that, you could buy other people's salvation who had already died. So they were in purgatory, and if you bought them enough money, you could buy and pay their way out of purgatory. It was that type of religious system, and that was built so closely paralleling this Jewish system of how they use religion to manipulate the people. But it was worse than that. It was worse than that. Here's what these crooks would do. The people had to travel long distances to come to Jerusalem for the feast. This is Passover feast, the largest feast on the Jewish calendar. So when the people would show up, many of the poor people would bring their sacrifices with them. They had grown their sacrifice, nurtured their sacrifice, took care of their sacrifice. It was to be a sacrifice without spot or without blemish. When they brought their sacrifice, they had to bring it into the temple, and inside the temple priest would examine their sacrifice. And guess what they would say? Rejected. You can't offer this sacrifice. But I tell you what, go over there in the corner to the guy that can sell you a lamb or a goat or a turtle dove. So they ripped people off when they came to Jerusalem to worship. Particularly poor people, you could buy turtle doves for 5 pence anywhere else. But when you came to Jerusalem, when you came to the temple, it cost you 75 pence. It was all a sham. It was all a ripoff. And this whole system was what Jesus was on a collision course with. And so when you see the antagonism and the resistance that the religious leaders have against Jesus, once they see his authority, his popularity with the people, it ain't had nothing to do with religion. It had everything to do with the fact that they knew that eventually he would expose them for who and for what they were. So when he comes to the temple of this final time, verse 45, so then he went into the temple and began to drive out those who bought and sold in it. He had a whip, and he beat them, he turned over tables, and he ran them out, saying to them, it is written, my house is a house of prayer, but you've made it a den of thieves. A hangout for a band of bandits. Now, why did Jesus call the temple a den of thieves or a cave of social bandits? First of all, I already touched on a couple of them. It was exploitation. Even the worshipers, they were exploiting them, making them pay high costs to change their money. There was a currency exchange. They at the temple would not take a coin as an offering that had an image on it. You had to convert it into a shekel, a Jewish currency that didn't have an image on it because they said, well, it's idolatrous, and all of Caesar's money had his image on it. Remember when Jesus says, render to Caesar that which is Caesar's, render to God that which is God. And so what they did was, now watch this, they told the people, you can't give your offering in the Roman money. They then made them convert their money, charged them an exorbitant conversion rate to convert it, took the same money they wouldn't accept as an offering and deposit in their accounts. And Jesus was infuriated by it. The high cost of exchange currency, the high cost to purchase animal sacrifices.